you, Brother Ambrose. When you mention the word entity, what is the difference between entity and a being?
Nothing really. There's though entities can be much more primitive than a being. So when you think of a being, you think of it's got a brain, it's got a heart, it's got emotions, it's got relationships. That's like a being can have all, like a demon's a being. You know, demons have emotions, they have relationships, they have a mind, they think. An entity can be basically barely above a thought form that can just be a coalesced type of negative energy that has a very primitive instinctual things that it can do from an instinctual standpoint. It doesn't really have a brain that thinks things out, but it can have instinctual actions that it does. For instance, in the oracles, when they went to one of the other kingdoms, when they took all the apostles, the other kingdom, and Miriam put a protective sphere around them, and all these entities got attracted to that light. That's an instinctual reaction. It's not a but that's an instinct, because the light, as long as it wasn't too strong, would feed them and nourish them.
Entities are always negative, or they are positive entities too?
They're on your aura, they're negative.
They're it's not that they have intentions to, you know, they're not smart enough, if they're an entity, to have intentions. They do things instinctually. So yes, if they're attaching to someone's aura, and it's an entity, not a being, you know, not like a guardian angel watching over them, something like that, but it's an entity, it's attached to the aura, that's always going to be a negative, because it's disrupting their normal flow of their aura. So even if the entity doesn't actually have any kind of bad intentions, it's causing a bad result, because it's disrupting the energetic field of that person.
It's kind of like bugs, you know, they're attracted to light, and so they are attracted, in the case of Miriam, to the light of the orb, and to the light of people's auras. Although typically the people that have entities attached to their auras are not very bright.
Or they're in a very bad state. So for instance, entities are a good question. That's actually a good question to talk on today, because entities tend, any kind of super bright light, they don't like that, but they do like some light, because that's a food source for them, basically. But they also require, in order to be able to attach to someone's auric field, they require that auric field to already be in somewhat of a disrupted state. So if someone has a healthy auric field, entities will not be able to attach to them. So, but if they have an unhealthy auric field for whatever reason, emotional, mental, physical, it becomes easier. And then if you think about a semi-dark state, I'm talking about physical darkness. So semi-dark state, so it's light, but it's not darkness, and it's not bright light. It's kind of in between there. Those are places that you're going to find a lot of people who tend to have disrupted energies, like bars, as an example. They go to bars, and the lighting's not so good. Or they're hospitals where people have a lot of physical problems, that they're in the hospital, prisons. So those are all places where there's a lot of disrupted auric energy. And if they also simultaneously have not bright light, not complete darkness, but a dimmer light, those are going to be places that entities are magnetically drawn to. Again, that's not something they're thinking about being drawn to. They're just drawn to. That's their nature. And so people who are in those places, hospitals, bars, prisons, are going to find a lot, almost 100% of those people are going to have entities on them. 100% of them, because they're in an area that there's a higher concentration of entity energies in those places. And yes, as Celestines, we can clear those energies. In fact, I don't think we've ever had a lesson on that, have we? On the using crystals?
No.
Okay, write that down. We need to have a class on.
That's like a basic, one of the very first things we learned and did.
So that's a class that we should have had a long time ago. Well, we can show it right now to the high priest group.
Right, because it's really easy.
Yeah, and we're getting a little behind schedule here, but I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have a quick question. Maybe you could help me.
Sure.
What's the difference between a higher self and spirit and intuition and all that? Are they all the same?
Well, your higher self is based, when we say your higher self, it's
Yeah.
basically saying, you know, you are a being that's existed for thousands of years already before you ever put in this body that you're in now. And you
Mhm.
have all of those, not all of that knowledge and connections from your thousands of years of existence, however long you've been since your soul was created. But in order to come here to this world, of course, we have this veil, so we don't remember all these things because we wouldn't be able to develop much faith if we had a total memory. That wouldn't work at all. And also, we wouldn't make the same efforts in this world if we had 100% sure knowledge of everything that has come before and everything that's going to come after. Well, hey, you know, this is a blink of eternity. Why bother? You know, and so these things are important, but you can still tap into that higher self, and that higher self is still there waiting to help this more mundane self that lives in this physical life right now. And so you can get insights through your higher self that knows things that this physical self doesn't know, but your higher self knows. And so it's just another avenue to receive knowledge. So there's not a lot of external avenues to receive knowledge, but we ourselves are one of those avenues too, through our higher self. And go back to your original question, because I only caught the first part of it, so I want to make sure I'm talking about everything you asked. So
Yeah, you did. You are absolutely.
And
Oh.
you also asked about intuition. How is that?
Right. Yeah. Is that?
So
Yeah.
intuition is simultaneously is a skill that this physical self develops in this life, or you can, but it's also tied to your higher self, because your higher self knows things that this self doesn't know. And a lot of that intuition that you think, well, I'm just intuiting, where's that intuiting coming from? It's oftentimes coming from that higher self that's making sure you get that knowledge passed on to help this self. But it's all you. It's still just all you. It's just different aspects of you on different
Got it.
levels.
So when people, so and your spirit, what's that? It's not the same. It's a different thing, right?
Well, no, your
the soul.
spirit is your soul.
Correct. Yeah.
So that you that's existed for thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands of years, I'm not sure how long your soul's existed, but
Sure.
you know, it's different for different people, but that is also your spirit. So when this physical body dies and we say your spirit rises, well, what is your spirit? Your spirit is your soul, which is eternal, but that soul is always in a vessel. It's not just some, you know, armed force that's out there. It's in a vessel. Well, the vessel right now is the physical body you're in. That's your vessel. Before you came here, you were in a premortal body. That was the vessel. The premortal body isn't the body of flesh and bone like we have now, but it's a body that's tangible. Looks like the body we have now, only looks a lot better, of course. But but it is, you know, it's a tangible body. I can come and I can hold Samara, you know, or whoever. I can have conversations. I can go to school. I can learn. And when you pass on from this life, your soul isn't just floating around aimlessly. It's going to be in a vessel that's going to be a body. And so
what happens? Oh, I'm sorry. I know you got to go, but what happens to your higher self, though? That's kind of interesting, like you say, right? So I know you got to go, but I'm just curious. Started to come, but your highest self.
I was all connected.
Yeah.
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 Intuition.
Yeah. That's because bro, what I hear is that your higher self is a version of you that already existed for millennial years, right?
exactly.
Going through whatever you're going through, your higher self did, right?
Yes.
Now, your intuition is the messages from your higher self.
Oftentimes that is the case. Yes.
Right. Okay. Now your spirit and your soul is an intangible aspect of you who's living in this physical feature.
Yes.
Okay. And they're all the same. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yes.
The soul name is you.
You, Brother Reggie, you are like a Russian babushka, you know, the dolls, one in one, and with the movie Interstellar all together. So this is the answer.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, I love that
Mhm.
analogy.
okay, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that's a good example. All right, well, that's exciting. I was gonna share something else with you. Let me go ahead and do this real quick, because it's.
Ah,
Okay.
And with your soul name, like I call my higher self by my soul name. When I want to talk
ah,
to my higher self, I address my higher self as my soul name. So that's all part of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your soul name is the easiest way to make a connection to your higher self, is that you look in the mirror, look at yourself, call yourself by your soul name and say, hey, I need some knowledge that I know you have and I want. And because you're a part of me that I need to tap into. And
got it.
just boom, there you go.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
All right, so you are gonna collect in your own collection some really cool crystals. Like this is a nice natural double terminated crystal. This is a,
Do you mind these, didn't you? Or
not that one, not that one. And this one is just a nice quartz crystal. They don't have to be quartz crystals. They can be other things.
long
And
your
also
shell?
the dark
For
one.
instance,
Yeah.
For instance, this is a spiral shell, and this particular spiral shell, it doesn't normally come with these spiral cuts, so that was done by man-made, and this shell was spiraled. This is the normal shape of the shell, and then
Mhm.
it would normally have ridges and valleys. So whoever did this originally, they cut out the valleys and they flatten the ridges, and it works great for that purpose. Or you can have special types of crystals, like this is a amethyst scepter crystal. But basically, these are all like wands. You think about it as wands.
Hmm.
And the whole purpose of a wand, of any kind of wand, is to be able to focus and amplify your power. So if you're using this as an example, let me this camera up a little bit more. So if you're using this as an example of a wand, and the key aspect of a wand is it has to be something that can send the power. Well, normally a shell by itself would not be very useful. But when it's a shell that's in this very pointy shape and has a spiral to amplify the energy, it becomes useful, very useful as a wand. Any of the quartz crystals, because they have points on the tips, and especially if it's a nice center point, become very useful. So for instance, this amethyst scepter has a very nice, I don't know if you can see it, but the point is right in the center there. That's a super useful. And then the amethyst scepter on the end even further amplifies the energy that comes through.
You
So-
can also use your personal wand.
Yes,
If
yes,
you
if
make
you've
one.
made your own wand, that's even better. So in any case, the whole purpose of a wand is you've got all this energy swirling inside of you that you're coalescing, you're focusing your own energy, you're making the power great, and you're sending it down your arm, and the wand becomes an extension of your arm. So it's like pointing your finger. But now it's an extension of your arm. And as it goes through that wand, it even amplifies the power further, and it's pointing it in a very thin line. Well, that's one of the reasons it's amplified. It's not that it's just amping up the power, but it's focusing all the power that's coming through your arm and now through a narrower vessel, the wand, so that it comes out super powerful. And the wand can also amplify as well. So when you're trying to get rid of entities, this is the whole thing we were talking about for getting rid of entities. This becomes an extremely useful tool. And you don't have to, normally you send with your right hand, you receive with your left hand. When you're doing this with entities, you can do it just with your right hand, or it's okay to do it with both hands. in
Yeah,
this
we
case,
like to use.
because that gets a circular energy going inside you that helps amplify things as well. So ladies, do you want to demonstrate getting rid of an entity
Sure.
with each other? So.
Okay.
Okay.
You can totally say, I got the entity. We'll do the quick draw.
Stand up because I got the camera up there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
So we're gonna pretend.
That there's one right here. So.
Yeah, okay. So then I would just take,
get a little closer so you're in the picture there. We're standing
Oh,
back a little
yeah.
bit. So
normally I wouldn't be this
Right, she
close,
let
but
it
I'd
be
be
this close to me.
afraid of
doing
hitting
it.
her or something.
Right. Yeah, don't let her hit me.
There you go.
All right. So I like to hold my wand like this,
Mm.
but personal preference. And then I take my stance and then I just see where I am going to focus my energy. And then I inhale and on the bottom of my breath, I just concentrate that energy so that when I shoot, I'm gonna go, ha! And it's gone. So I find with using my voice as part of projecting, it gives it more.
Well, it's actually,
More. It's good. When we first started practicing and we go,
And we went.
and you go, no,
It's
you didn't get rid
it's
of
not
it.
gone.
Yeah, your voice is key. It's just like in judo, when they throw people around the mats and the person gets thrown and they land on the mat. The two things that they normally do is they'll actually slap the mat with one hand and they'll say ki. And saying that sound helps the pain not be there as much when you hit the mat. You don't even notice it then. It's like, oh, that was no big deal. And for getting rid of entities, there's multiple things that are, if you're just trying to do this quick and easy. Okay, let's say you go into a room of a bunch of people that were in a bar and they all have entities. And when I say entities, they can have a lot of entities. It's not like you just have one. I've seen people with as many as 20 entities on. Each one of those has to be dealt with individually if you're getting rid of them. So, yes, as Samara said, I've watched in their own education that when they'll go and they go, ha! I says, well, no, that didn't quite do it. The more energy you put into it, the more energy that gets projected out, and this becomes interesting if you're working with somebody who has a tendency to have a kind of diminutive personality, so they never speak loudly, they're always quiet and stuff. And you say, well, you gotta really let out. And they go, huh? That doesn't work. Try again. So, and so it becomes a little more challenging for some people than others, but you got to be able to, and the more you put into it, the more that comes out and the more effective it is. So then when you're actually somebody's got a bunch of entities, you just go and they're all gone.